Okay, so absolute value we did in grade 11. We just touched on it. Do you remember these little brackets, but they were just straight line brackets? Do you remember seeing those? That's absolute value. Last year I compared it to driving. So I said, with direction, if you drive to Gretna, let's say that's 5 kilometers south, -5. And if you drive to Rosenfeld, that's +5. But what absolute value does is it takes away that direction. It doesn't care. It just will take the value. So just 5. Okay, so any kind of coordinate x, y is going to become x comma absolute value of y. So this is only ever affecting y. And do you see how inside the absolute value is f of x? And are you remembering f of x is really usually just a fancy way to say y? Lots of the times the functions like this is a x comma y. This is just f of x is a fancy y. Okay, so here we go. Here's a coordinate. What's the coordinate if I absolute value the function? 5 comma +8. Again, it's not affecting the x whatsoever. So this coordinate would change from -6, 10 to -6 comma still 10. Okay? And then 3 comma 0 will go to 3 comma also 0. So here's the rules. If the y value is positive, then it stays. If the y value is negative, it's going to change to positive. And if the y value is 0, then it would stay as well. So the only thing that ever changes is negative, because if we talk about distance, that's the one thing that can't work for us. So we have to change that. Okay? Okay, so here's a graph. We're going to graph the absolute value of it. Okay, so where should I stay? Where should I stay? Any height. Any height that's 0 or positive needs to stay. So this is going to stay, this 1 point. And then this and beyond. Those coordinates are all going to stay put. Because why? Their heights were 0 or positive. Now, this section here all has negative heights, so it needs to change. So I'm going to flip this coordinate, for example. 0, -2 is going to go up to 0, +2. Okay? If you're ever asked questions about functions, range and domain, okay, do you understand what the range of this is going to be? Once you absolute value something, the range now, obviously just because there's an arrow, like that could be different for other graphs, But do you notice how I can't be negative, right? Once I've absoluted something, I'm not negative anymore ever. So connect that piece in your brain as well. Some of this other stuff would depend on arrows and whatever. Okay, let's look at these two examples here. -2 and -2. What letter are we here? A, B, C, D stuff. D. Actually on both of them, right? Do you see that? That's on both of them, they're D's. Okay, so we have absolute stuff going on, and we have a D going on both of them. But they're completely different. So what's going to be different about these things? Order. The order is going to be important. Okay? So we know there's two things that have to happen. There's some kind of absoluting going on, and there's a shift down going on. There's an absoluting going on and a shift down going on. Okay, what one of those two things should I do first on this example? Should we absolute and then go down, or should we go down and then absolute? So think about math with brackets. Is this in the bracket or out of the bracket? It's in. So on this, we're going to go down and then we're going to absolute. Do you see the difference on the next one? So what do you think I'm going to do here? I'm going to absolute it. Then afterthought, then I'm going to go down. Okay? This is in the brackets, so I have to do it and then absolute it. Okay, you ready? I'm going to draw my original. So here's my original. Can we shift this thing down to, I'm going to draw it really lightly because it's not my final graph. So down to, okay, so that was me just going down 2. That's good. Now I'm going to absolute this drawing. So I'm going to keep this stuff. That stuff's going to stay. All this is going to change because the heights of them are all negative. So they all are going to change. So 0, -4. So what does your final graph look like? Okay, good. Moving on. This one says to absolute, then go down 2. So, you know what we already did? We've already absoluted it. So that was this drawing. So I'm going to just kind of lightly copy this drawing. We already did that work on the first graph. So I absoluted it. Then after I absolute it, now I'm going to shift it down. Okay? Look at how different each of the final graphs look. And that's all because of the order stuff. Okay, obviously this one has a range that includes below 0, and that's only because that shift, that after shift, made that happen. So